Welcome to another edition of Spits and Suds. Oh my goodness, the regular season is just around the corner. I'm Gavin Spittle of 1053 The Fan, and we will get to our weekly Stars and NHL insider, Sean Shapiro. So nice of him to join us. We have so much to talk about, including what a great article that he and Robert Tiffin of StarsThoughts.com combined for. It's on Sean's Substack, so we'll lead with that and some news from practice as well we'll talk about. But first, I want to talk about the on-time experts. Weather's beautiful out right now, so no problem. Maybe even the AC's turned off and the heat's not on right now. But that's going to change, and it's going to change quick. And when that heat clicks on for the first time, you will have the assurance that it's working properly if you go with my friends at theontimeexperts.com and just click on that book now button and get that tune-up and cleaning. And then you will have the satisfaction that it's going to be fine in the winter, it's going to be fine in the spring, probably going to be fine next summer. And if there are any problems on the horizon, they're not going to oversell you. They're just going to say, hey, keep an eye on that, because they want you as a customer for life. I've had them at my house to work on my HVAC, had them at my house to work on my plumbing. 5 stars all around. You'll give them 5 stars as well. Plus, they're supporting local hockey here in DFW as the official HVAC company of the Dallas Stars, and now the official HVAC company of Spits and Suds. So check them out, and please thank them for supporting Spits and Suds and local hockey, theontimeexperts.com. As mentioned, the greatness of Sean Shapiro. Want to plug Shap Shots. Wow. I mean, talk about a great article that dropped. It was worth the subscription just for this article alone. I was riveted by it. So make sure you subscribe to Sean at Shapshots. He also partnered with another Spits and Suds favorite, Stephen Meserve, for the book We Win Here. Texas Stars training camp just starting. Some terrific stories about the Texas Stars and the Dallas Stars in Sean and Stephen's book. And Stephen's still doing a little bit of a book tour now and then, book signing. So make sure you pick up a copy of that book. It's called We Win Here. He also writes for D Magazine. He's all over the place, EP Rinkside as well. How are you, Sean?
I'm good, Gavin. I'm good. It's Friday night. It's October. I'm gonna go tonight. I'm gonna go watch Notre Dame play the USA Under-18 team down at USA Hockey Arena tonight. So go watching some like college hockey / U18 hockey later tonight. So it's a good day, and I'm happy to be chatting with you right now.
Oh, that's so. Oh man. God, I love your gems that you find as far as hockey. That is so cool. And where you live, there's just so much hockey going on. Wanted to start the article that you wrote with Robert. 2 of my favorite writers, obviously, and I love that you guys combined and you were doing a back and forth. And you've talked about the Kirill Kaprizov contract, but not necessarily why Minnesota had to do this on this program. Can you just go into this, because you mentioned that first and foremost in the article?
Yeah, I think that's a big thing to important, the Kaprizov thing, where is he a $17 million player, worth the highest contract in NHL history? I don't know. That's not, but that is what he is worth to Minnesota. And I think that's what people kind of need to remember when they look at certain deals, where if you're Minnesota, he is the heartbeat of that team. He drives everything. You've lost superstars before. The Marian Gaborik one is the big example, and you've had other attempts at superstardom that haven't worked well. And so the Wild could not afford to let Kaprizov go. And so if he had wanted 18 or 19 million, the Wild probably would have had to give it to him. And so I think that's an important thing to remember when you look at the Kaprizov stuff. It is a different deal than most other players, where if the Wild were to lose him, it would be a seismic loss. Where there's other players, and we're about to talk about Jason Robertson, where if the Stars lost Jason Robertson, it would probably be disappointing, but Mikko Rantanen's still there. Wyatt Johnston's still there. Robe Hintz is still it's not there's not the cataclysmic possibility applies to other players the way it applies to Kaprizov in the Minnesota situation.
I also thought what you said about Robertson really is a perspective that we haven't talked about. And it kind of like opened up my eyes a little bit because maybe I've been too much into the numbers, which I think is okay to a certain point. That's part of our job. But also, this is very interesting what you brought up, and it made me take a step back. You said, so I know a lot about Robertson. I feel like I have one of the better reads on the human side than most of the national media. I get really annoyed when people talk about him being a problem or difficult to deal with. He's hockey obsessed in his own way. He's not super vocal, and he can be socially awkward, which I think many humans should be able to relate to, but we don't necessarily want to see in our pro athletes. I think that's where people get caught up in the big contract possibilities. Boy, and then you go on to say if Robertson was a smooth, suave, off-ice persona like a young Tyler Seguin, wouldn't it just be accepted that he was worth at least $13 million or more? And Sean, when you said that, I was like, wow, you nailed that, because that is an interesting perspective, because I think sometimes we relate big-time money to big-time personality.
Yeah, I think as I wrote there and as you just read out, like the perception of Jason Robertson is he's a hockey nerd. It's all he really cares about. And so that's the type of thing where so often we want our athletes to be hyper focused and everything like that. But if it's almost funny if Jason Robertson, I don't want to say cared less, but if Jason Robertson was a little more less hockey nuanced, we'd have less we'd have there would be it would be easy to be like, oh yeah, he's a 14 $15 million player. And I compared him to when the Stars got Sagan. Like if he had a similar off-ice personality to Sagan, where he was the great brand ambassador and he was the guy who just could basically control a room when he walked in. Instead, Jason's a little bit shy. He's a little socially awkward, and a lot of us are like that, right? Like it's the thing where I think a lot of people can relate to that. And it's funny, I compared it to I was listening to something the other day that was talking about I was listening to a thing the other day that was an interview, not about hockey. It was they were talking about the success of why Spider-Man is the most popular superhero, right? Like why is, like, from commercial success and all of that stuff. And it goes back to one of the reasons that amongst Marvel superheroes, Spider-Man is the most popular connected superhero or whatever, is because he's an awkward dude. Can't get dates. He's down on his luck in real life. He's not rich. He's not like a god or anything like that. And that type of person we connect to as a human being. So it's funny to me where that doesn't always apply to our athletes. Where Jason Robertson is more like you and I than is very much like all of us. But we want our athletes to be this persona,
Yeah.
this flamboyance or whatever you call it, and instead he's just very normal in a way, not in a bad way, just normal like many of us. And if if you put a different kind of skin on him, like a different veneer out, the public veneer, I don't think we're having the like, oh, can you pay this guy 12 million? Like
Right.
I think all of those things die if there's a different outside perception there.
Do you think the other perception regarding he's not worth compared to a Kaprizov or others is because he clearly does everything well, but it's not like when a McKinnon or a McDavid come over the boards, the lightning fast or the snapshot or the true skill set, that you see and you're like, oh my goodness. Like that is just a game changer. Even though Robertson in his own way is, do you understand what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, no.
it's not as flashy as some of the other elites in the game.
Well, you know what he is, and I've used this terminology before. Uh he's a socially awkward Brett Hull, Gavin.
Yeah, it's a good point. I was thinking Brett Hull.
Like, you know what? Like, because so Robertson has the shot. That, like, there's no doubt. Like, he's a 109-point player in his career. Like, he has the shot. It's not there. He's not. He has the shot. It's not like there's no shot. Yeah, he's not the fastest. But so there's a lot about him that is you can watch him from shift to shift and get bored, right? But you could do the same thing for Brett Hull. You could watch Brett Hull for 18 of Brett Hull's 19 shifts in a game. He could be really damn boring, but that 19th shift, that's the one that changes the game. And I think that's the thing about the Kaprizov Robertson thing where they kind of like they're comparing the two. The other thing about Robertson is I think there's times where people try to paint, and with contracts we try to deal with absolutes, and um, I think he's a classic example of getting pulled in too far of a framing on both when it comes to the eye test and analytic test, right? Like I think there's a lot of times people will talk about, hey, Jason Robertson is a better defensive player. Like here's these analytics and here's these numbers on it. And I think those are true, but they're not, but he's not as good of a defensive player as those paint him to be. He's also not nearly as bad as a defensive player as some of the old school um, mentalities look at him and like, oh, he's not like, no, he is a better defensive player. So the truth about him often lies somewhere in the middle. And when we kind of think about all that and we think about value and we think about what a player is worth, I think Jason Robertson, in a way, the lack of outside noise, the lack of other things to kind of do the framing and everything, um, make it so we try to create other not I'm using the royal we here, Gavin, because like that's why I get really frustrated and be like, oh, he's difficult to deal with or this or that. Like I hear that from some national media storylines. It's the lack of the big personality that stops that. So it's he is a fascinating player, and I think he should be. I think too often people try to boil it down to the black and white with him.
Yeah. Because you talk about this a little bit, you and Robert, from the just purely cap perspective, though, what are your thoughts on, because clearly you can do it with Robertson, Harley, and you'd have Rantanen, but as far as like cap-strapped future, that certainly is something that continues to kind of fester in my mind because I do want some freedom as far as to address needs, and I would hate to be in a situation where it's like, no, we signed our guys, so we're rolling with what we have.
Yeah.
A lot of success with what they've had, but the inability to get over the mountain, so to speak.
Well, and here's the thing, like I don't think no matter what the Robertson deal is, like I think it's probably fits in 26, 27 to an extent, right? Like now Thomas Harley's number is going to get really big, but there's definitely you can make it work. I guess the question for me where this comes down to, and it's the are you going to be able to, if Thomas Harley really goes off, right?
Yes.
And that's where it is. Like if Thomas Harley is like Jackson Lacombe got $9 million.
That's what exactly. Yeah. Another one on the board and another one that I'm like, Thomas Harley continues to get more expensive.
If Thomas Harley is a $12 million player, which is not inconceivable, if Thomas Harley, if they're going to go long term with Harley and he's going to be that $12 million player, like I look at the cap picture for 26, 27 and you're like,
yes,
I see. Where are we going to fit where are you going to fit to make that work? Right. Like that is because right now I see this, like right now Puckpedia has the Stars for 27 million in cap space right now for 26, 27, right? Like that's based off deals signed already. So if you go and sign, if Thomas Harley is a $12 million player, that leaves about 15 million for just Jason Robertson. With 7 other players that still need contracts too, and that doesn't include, hey, are you going to try to roll back another season of Jamie Benn and all of that stuff? And what about Maverick Bork's next deal and everything? I think that's everyone looks at the Kaprizov thing and where does this mean for Robertson's deal and all of that, but I think we often need to stop and think about when it comes to roster construction, it might be Thomas Harley that pushes him out, and it's not anything else.
Great article, Sean. I mean, Listen, all your
Appreciate
work is
it.
great, but seriously, you teaming up with Robert, that was terrific. I was reading through it. I don't know why. I mean, I'm just going to take a step back for a second. I mean, as someone who runs a radio station, it's very similar to, not that I don't like a solo talk host, but like, for instance, this Spits and Suds program. I don't think anyone listening would be like, you know what, Gavin, I like when you do these solo shows. I think it's better when you have a conversation like you and I are having right now. So I do think it was just a nice curveball to see both you and Robert going back and forth. So it was
And,
interesting.
and I think it's good to have. I want to be clear on something, right? Like the whole back and forth piece. I like doing those. It's also important for me that I do those with people whose opinion I value, right? People who I want to push me and everything like that. And that's one of the reasons I really enjoy doing those with Robert, where um he can tell me, "Hey, you're wrong." He can, or I can tell him that, and then we can have a civil back and forth about it. And I
Hmm.
think that's a big key thing in kind of that format that I think goes a long way.
Yeah, it certainly does. Okay, some news that I wanted to talk about coming from Robert Tiffin of starsthoughts.com. He asked Glenn Gulletson the question about Mikko Rantanen regarding the power play, and for some perspective as far as Rantanen playing on both power play units. Now, we're going to play the cut. So we'll play the cut right here. And then Robert also said, he said it'll depend on the situation. If they've hemmed them in for a while, then yeah, it's an option. But if he's had to go down and back a couple of times, probably not. And Robert's going to do a full write-up on that on starsthoughts.com. But here's Robert asking the question and Gully's answer.
We've also seen Mikko stay out there for both units here and there. We saw it last year a little bit too. But is that an option to see the sort of player where you would look at doing that pretty regularly during the season?
Yeah, we are. And then the other part of that is just where you are in the power play, right? If you had to go up and back 2 or 3 times to get it, or you're tired, you're watching it, he's coming off, right? But if we've had them hemmed in there for a minute, and he's sat in that spot he likes to sit in, and he's had a couple good looks and hasn't burned up a lot of jet fuel, and we're going to keep him out there. So that's just part of those mixing. So it's like 2 units, but it's almost 2.5 units in that. The ability to move Harles and Heiskin into each unit would give us some other looks. So all that stuff's being played with.
And Sean, I wanted to get your thoughts on Mikko Rantanen playing. I mean, the other day he did full 2 minutes on one power play, and didn't look like he was tired at all. So him playing, for a full 2 minutes.
Yeah, I don't have any issue with it. I mean, Alex Ovechkin plays the full 2 minutes of every power play for Washington. If he comes off, it's similar to the reason that Gulletson spoke about, where did he go up and back and things like that. And so I think so often it's such a preseason thing, Gavin, for us to get caught up in right now. It's
Sure
like, oh
is.
man, he's gonna play both power play units. That's a fine concept and thing to be like, I'm gonna worry about that right now. But next season, we will be about 3 days into the start of the next year. This time next year, we'll be at 3 days into the start of the season, right? We will then be able to not have we'll only have 4 preseason games to worry about this, because it's interesting and it's good to know that's how you're using your top players, but it's also how you should be using your top players. If you're a $12 million player, you're a top 5 winger on the planet, you should be playing both in the power play. I don't think that's a crazy thing. And so that's where I kind of fall on it. I think it's a funny thing where people kind of get but isn't 2 minutes of Mikko Rantanen better than 2 minutes of Mikko Rantanen is better than a minute of a lot of other players.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Back to Harley for just 1 second, because I was just looking at top free agents. I'm sure there were some restricteds out there as well. But now that we've seen a couple of defensemen come in, is there anyone else or that you can think of, or is this the time now, in your opinion, that Jim Nill tries to get it done? Because I agree with you. As this thing continues, I have a feeling odds are it's going to become more expensive. Even if he got injured, to me, like, he's proved his value already.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would, if I'm the Stars, I push for it. If I'm Harley's camp, though, I wait for that Olympic boost, right? Like that's
Sure.
I get. So I think that's that's kind of where I go on that. I will say, can I throw out one other thing that I think
Absolutely, sir. It's your podcast too.
that the Stars should potentially look into. The I don't know if you could make it work because the Stars only have right now. The Stars are tight to the cap and everything like that, right? They have about I think they have about 1.1 million in cap space right now. Would you call Jack Roslovic right now?
Whew, yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah.
Talking about a 22 goal scorer last season, play the center or the wing with Jamie Benn's injury. I look at this Stars lineup, and this isn't to rip on anyone else's performance or anything like that, but I go through and I look along the wings, and between Oscar Beck, Nathan Bastian, Colin Blackwell, you've got Radek Faksa, you've got good amount of forwards on this team that aren't going to put the puck in the net with regularity, right? That's just, we can call it what it is.
Correct.
And you got a 22 goal scorer sitting out there. We've heard that maybe he declined an offer from Edmonton, so maybe he wouldn't even want to come to Dallas and everything like that. But would you, if you're Jim Nill and you've got a really good team, and wouldn't you make that call?
I would make a lot of calls right now. I really would. I mean, obviously he's doing that, but I guess the other one that someone asked about the other day was Lucas Reichel, the youngster from Chicago that's been up and down, and he does play left wing. I just don't know. I mean, what are you going to have to give up? Because this was a former first-round pick, so there has to be some currency in exchange. It's not like they're going to accept a seventh, but he's kind of struggled when he's been up in Chicago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's an interesting one. He's also one that would require you to give something to get something.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
The Roslovic one, to me, it's cap space, and you'd have to look at things, and like right now you're at 1.1 million roughly in cap space, and so if you do that, I'm assuming you have to make another a different lineup decision and everything like that works out, but I think it's worth a call. So
I'm totally with you, especially when you look, like, you're right, absolutely, 39 points last year, 81 games, so there's some durability there too. Yeah. So it's that is an interesting one, and that's why we love having you on the program, sir. That is a very, very interesting one. How expensive do you think it would be?
I mean, we know he made $2.8 million last year. We've heard that he turned something down from Edmonton this summer, so we don't know for sure what that would cost. But if you're do a little bit of cap juggling and look at your space, and could you find something for one? I mean, he doesn't have a job yet, right?
Right.
So does it hurt to call and offer 1.5?
Yeah.
Right? Like, is that going to be, like, here's the thing. Like, I think Oscar Beck is has Oscar Beck done enough in your mind, Gavin, to say, hey, it's not worth upgrading him for a 22 goal scorer in the NHL?
I don't want to say it's a mistake because Beck's not costing that much, but at the same time, I need to see more out of Oscar Beck.
Exactly, right? Like, or the same thing goes with like I mean, you're not gonna like a Colin Blackwell, right? Like, and it's one of those where it's just like, if Colin Blackwell at league minimum gets pushed to your 13th forward, is that really a problem? Because there's only scoring goals in the NHL is not easy, and you got a guy was supposed to be part of that offense, probably in a higher spot than he should have been this year in Jamie Benn, who's going to miss the first month of the season. So why aren't you? I see no reason not to make that call. So
yeah. All right. So the Amazon Hockey Series Face-Off Inside the NHL debuts tomorrow. Got some news, and we're going to have our Spits and Suds friend Carol Schramm from the Hockey News, and she spoke to them. We'll have her on Monday. But just wanted to touch on this, Sean. It's kind of unfortunate. After announcing in May that Mikko Rantanen, Wyatt Johnston, and Thomas Harley of the Stars would be featured in Season 2, only Rantanen survived the editing process. He's seen primarily after his January trade from the Avalanche to the Carolina Hurricanes. They said these stories tend to really come together in the end. We have an idea of what we're trying to tell, the best characters to facilitate that, but sometimes you get into the edit and characters that you think are going to work together in episodes just don't. So unfortunately, the editing room floor is going to feature a couple of Dallas Stars, Wyatt Johnston and Thomas Harley, which is kind of a shame for Stars fans.
Yeah, it is. It's it is, and it's I don't know, Gavin. We live in the ultimate content age of things. Like, I know they're on the editing room floor, but maybe we can hope that something comes out later in a deleted scene stuff or something like that. But like, it's also the whole, I wonder from Thomas Harley and Wyatt Johnston, I wonder if they're like, Thomas Harley has a very self-deprecating form of humor, right? He's very, he has some good quips. Him and Wyatt Johnston have very similar personalities. I actually find them semi-entertaining individuals. I wonder how entertaining they are to build out. One of the difficulties of building out a docuseries, and that people need to remember, is you need to be able to connect it to everyone. Right? And so are you able to connect Thomas Harley and Wyatt Johnston to a viewer in a 3-minute intro?
Yeah.
That doesn't care about the Dallas Stars at all. This is not a Dallas Stars show. It's an NHL-wide show. I don't know if you are. And that's a great question to figure out. So I think people will look at it and think like, oh my God, they're limiting what the Stars viewership on something or whatever. I also have to, from the creative standpoint, I think we also need to sometimes stop and remember that we want the best story told. We want good content. We don't always want just everything thrown at us, right? And I think too many times we do have some of these like widespread documentaries now that could use a little more editing, to choose my words carefully.
Yeah. And just for perspective, because I know Harley and clearly Jason Robertson are the big stories, it's not just like this is happening here. We have Jack Eichel, we have Connor McDavid, and this news from Daily Faceoff, David Pagnotta. The Kings spoke again with Adrian Kempe's camp the other day. No progress as of today on an extension. The season begins in 4 days. Both sides now comfortable starting a year without a deal. So very interesting, because that's a nice part for the LA Kings, Adrian Kempe.
Yep.
I don't. It was so fascinating because Sean, as soon as I read that, I had to rush to see the numbers, and I'm like, okay, how does that compare to Jason Robertson? And that reminded me that sometimes we undervalue Jason Robertson because there's no comparison between Kempe and Jason Robertson. Jason Robertson is far, as far as statistical, much better player.
100%.
So. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Sean, what's that?
We got a week till games.
I know.
Till real games were great.
I know. It's very exciting. And Sean, your years of covering hockey, I've told Spits and Suds listeners not to panic, but I think you'd agree. These first 3 games, not easy tilts. At Winnipeg, at Colorado, home in a late game against Minnesota. So don't hit the panic button, right, Sean?
No, but also embrace the fun, right?
Yep.
Like, embrace it. So
yeah. Well, thank you, man. I really appreciate it. Once again, what a great article. Everyone needs to subscribe to your Substack, which is at Shapshots, to read about that great article and more. Sean does a lot of national stuff as well, so you can check him out on EP Ringside. Also writes for D Magazine. Terrific job, man. Great insight today. Kudos on the article, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Yeah, Gavin, always fun to do this. Let's do it again soon.
Absolutely. That's going to do it for another episode of Spits and Suds. Can't wait to talk to you tomorrow night after the final preseason game. And thanks to the on-time experts as well. For producer Gregory Finley, I'm Gavin Spittle. Until our next podcast, have a great day, everyone.